difficult now. I think it's gonna be even more difficult in the future. Retirement for a Christian is about the continued stewardship of the resources God has allowed you to hold during your working life. So I would say, have we been squandering those resources on just fun for ourselves? Retirement is possible with careful planning. Oh, no, sorry, we just started.
HDMI 1, live TV unknown. Android TV remote service.
She just said all the things. Keep going.
Okay, so, retirement is possible with careful planning, but there's a surprising amount of.
Updating library. Updating library.
I don't know what it is. There's a surprising amount of paperwork to being retired. So, after Fungwan asked me to talk about this, I Googled, what does the Bible say about retirement? And I found only one direct mention for retirement, and it was in Numbers, where Moses was giving instructions about how the Levites, the temple workers, were to be retired. And they got to retire at age 50, and they still had a role to play, which might be viewed as being useful. So Numbers 8:23. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, this applies to the Levites. From 25 years old and upward, they shall come to do duty in the service of the tent of meeting. From age 50 years, they shall withdraw from the duty of service and serve no more. They minister to their brothers in the tent of meeting by keeping guard, but they shall do no service. Thus shall you do to the Levites in assigning their duties. So there is a biblical concept for retirement. Now the disclaimer. Some of you perhaps thought I would describe how to invest and make a lot of money so you could have a retirement that would allow you to do all the things that we could enjoy. But unfortunately, no, I don't know how to do that. I only know how to calculate how much money I'm likely to have available for my 401k if I maximize my pre-tax deduction and conservatively invest my 401k. So God wants us to enjoy the results of our work, but only in ways that are pleasing to God and that include gratitude for God. In Ecclesiastes 3:13, it says that every man should eat and drink and enjoy
Updating library. Updating library.
the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. Now this is a case of do as I say, not as I did. I did not consider the Bible when I started thinking about retirement, but I wish I had. I think it would have given me more confidence to know that I was aligned with God's will for us. that their management believes they're getting a good deal, not that just you are thinking they're getting a good deal. And, I was very blessed that I ended up where I did, and I only worked at one company my whole life. That was the only job I ever had. But our company had a benefit that allowed them to retire before age 65, but continue to stay on the company's health insurance. Until you reach age 65, and then you qualify for Medicare, government health insurance. So, this screen here is, from our company's manual where they described how that works, and I don't know if they still do it. I'm told they didn't like people retiring early. But it also depends, when you retire, how you believe in God. Do you believe in a loving God who gave his son for your salvation? A God that wants you to enjoy in ways that please God all he has created and given you. We are each responsible for our own discernment about God. Ecclesiastes 9 says, "Go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do." And this is God encouraging us to enjoy the simple pleasures in life. God delights in our joy of what he's given us. So the first step is to determine the age you want to retire, and that can affect a lot of things from your own life, your health, the health of your family members, financial responsibilities, and so forth. When I first started working, my first real job when I was about 20 years old, in 1976, the retirement age for everyone was 65. That was the full retirement age. And both Social Security and Medicare would start at 65. You could still retire early at 62, but you would get a reduced Social Security benefit. But then after I'd been working a few years, the government realized this was costing too much, and they decided to raise the age for full retirement. And for me, it became, instead of 65, 66 and 4 months. And I felt I felt betrayed. That was a bad deal. But now it's even higher, I think, for younger people. That if you're in your 50s now, it might be over 66 or 67 even. So you can still retire at 62 and get some benefit, but you have to determine when you want to retire, even if you want to retire. I know quite a few people that don't plan on ever retiring, not because they can't, but they don't want to.
Mark, can you just play? Mark, can you play the way we make the screen bigger? Yeah, able to
Make
play.
it bigger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Full screen.
Full
Full
screen. Play.
F5.
No, but F5 will go up at the beginning. Hold on, no, after.
你把它 minimum 小一点，你把它小一点，对呀，再下去，往上挪一点，把屏幕弄小一点。
右下角看看右下角。
It doesn't have a play, but somehow I don't know why.
或者是那个
哪一个？这个。
不是这样子。
There should be a play button. This is.
Slideshow，你用 slideshow。
Yes, slideshow doesn't have slideshow. View or slideshow.
放那个放了。
Start from.
Yeah, just do it as F5.
F5 will be from beginning.
You just page.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can go down. Yeah, that will make it bigger. Here we go. That's what I meant. Which page? Oh, too much. That's fine. You can go up. Here we go. You can choose which one.
Okay, so I first started seriously thinking about retirement when I was 46 years old. You guys, if you're over 50, you better start thinking right now. But my mom had recently died at age 76, so I guess I was thinking about my own mortality, and she only had 10 years of retirement. And so at 46, our company would, when I was that age, our company would have a 401k meeting every fall. And that's when I found out that we could access our 401k without penalty at 59 and a half. If you try to access that money before then, the government does charge a substantial penalty, 10% I think, plus you still have to pay taxes on that money too. So it was at that time, I was 46, and I decided I wanted to retire at 60, because that's just a little over 59 and a half, and I wouldn't have to pay any penalty on my 401k. So that's when I made that first step in my plan. That's when I wanted to retire. So, in 2008, the U.S. had a lot of financial difficulties, and 401k plans generally took a big hit. And it would take me a couple years to get my 401k back on track. So my plan of retiring at 60 had to be postponed till 62. And that was when I wanted to retire. Now I had to make sure that I had the resources to fund that, because it was before 65 when I could start getting Medicare, and before 66 when I could start receiving Social Security. So for many people, the two largest expenses are usually their house or mortgage and health insurance. And I would have to fund my own health insurance for Payfen and myself until we reach 65. So when Payfen and I were married in 1989, she was already attending T4C, and I hadn't been regularly attending at church for a while, so that's how we decided we would attend her church. And at that time, or shortly after, T4C was encouraging us to attend these Bill Gothard seminars on Christian living. And they were week-long evening seminars for, usually from about 6:30 to 9:30. And he had a series of books on Christian living, and that had a big influence on me. It influenced me a lot. And one of the main things in there was that Christians should strive to be debt-free. And that led me to want to pay off my house mortgage as soon as possible. So at that time, I actually hadn't started thinking about retirement, but not having a mortgage would become important later for retirement. And so after attending those Bill Gothard seminars, that's when I decided we would pay cash for everything, no more borrowing money. And in the Bill Gothard seminar, they emphasized the two verses from Proverbs and Romans. Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. And then in Romans 13:8, owe no one anything except to love each other, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. And so even though I hadn't started thinking about retirement, I think God was watching over me and continues to watch over me. So here's a page from one of Bill Gothard's books where he emphasizes those two verses about not being in debt. Now, two side effects of paying off your mortgage early while making double or triple house payments, you won't have any extra money for vacation trips or hobbies or anything like that. And then the other side effect is that once your mortgage is paid off, you will have a big sense of freedom, because one of the main chains that bind you to a particular company has been gone now. You really only have one chain left. Health insurance is a big one. But once the mortgage was paid off, then we could really increase our 401k contributions to the maximum that the laws allow. And it lowered my take-home pay a little bit, but because it's pre-tax, that wasn't very much really, considering how much I was able to put in my 401k. So then, another factor is tracking your monthly expenses. You'll know how much money you're going to have, but you have to know that spending will fit within that. And so for many, many years, first on paper and then sometime in the early 2000s when I started using Excel, but I track all the monthly expenses, right, everything, right down to the smallest grocery bill. And so you have to track your insurance costs, everything you spend for groceries, taxes, car repairs, everything. And I have to say that the Costco credit card is a big help in that. And just put everything on that. Don't use cash anymore. And basically, in planning for retirement, we knew what all of our expenses and costs would be. And we don't have any hobbies or other expenses, so it's really just living expenses and utilities and taxes, things like that. So tracking your expenses becomes very important. The part that was very important was PayFen was employed full-time during most of those years. And she had the same type of benefits that I did, health insurance and 401k. And that gives you a lot of confidence in making your retirement plan, in that if one spouse is unemployed, you can still make mortgage payment, you can still make your expenses. And if you're both employed, then you will have the extra financial resources that you can make extra mortgage payments and share in the regular bills, allowing money to maximize your 401k deductions. And both spouses working, that's like a form of insurance for the family. I also calculated that funding health insurance for Payfin and I, from our company's plan. Now, remember earlier I was allowed to stay on the company plan. And that's very important, because if you try to buy insurance on the open market, it's expensive, but also it's hard to find. They don't want you, or they'll have limitations on pre-existing conditions. So if you're, for instance, diabetic, you'll find it hard to buy insurance unless those type of issues are excluded. And then what good is the insurance? So I wanted to make sure we had the same insurance that we had at work. And our company's plan cost about $1,000 a month from age 62 to age 65. So I had to budget for that. And that's in addition to the other expenses like your groceries and car insurance and all that kind of stuff. As a very risk-averse type person, I wanted to make sure I had good health insurance, good car insurance, and house insurance, all those kind of insurances. And I was very fortunate that our company allowed retirees to stay on the same plan. So I had the same plan that I had at work. I just had retired, our company would, charge us, about 1/3 of the insurance cost. They pay 2/3. And so, I budgeted for that, and it was about 40, Payfen and I are the same age roughly. So I had to budget about 40 months of it until, she reached 65. She's a few months, younger than I am. And I also included premium costs for each year. I was just guessing how much is it gonna go up each year, but you have to allow for that over 40 months. So then I had the plan in place, the resources that I would need. I knew what I would spend, and then I had to choose a time to retire. I mean, I had an age that I wanted, but now when exactly am I going to do it? And that had a lot to do with what I felt was going on at my job. And I seriously thought about retiring in 2014 or 15, and company was going through a lot of big changes, new engineering management and new software, and I was tired of it. I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I told my boss at the time that I wanted to retire, and he essentially told me that, don't do it, stay, things are gonna get better. Yeah, and so I postponed it then, but the problem was that manager went back to Switzerland, and so in the next few years we got 2 or 3, I can't remember now, 2 or 3 new engineering managers, and my immediate supervisor left or was fired, and we had new software to learn, so I was pretty much fed up. I was tired and I didn't want to deal with it anymore, so that's when I decided to retire effective in 2018, so that's when I actually retired.
How old were you then?
62.
Almost.
Yeah, and the thing is, I had done planning so that I could do that. I had the ability to have that choice, and that goes all the way back to what I said about attending the Bill Gothard seminar and paying off the mortgage. It's pretty tough to retire if you're still paying a mortgage when you're 60 years old. So that's why I would say planning and start as soon as possible. If you're over 50 years old, you're too late already. Getting busy, start, and planning doesn't, a lot of people when they think of retirement planning, they're thinking about, what am I going to do for retirement? What, I'm gonna travel, or have hobbies, or go golfing. That's not retirement planning. That's spending money planning. So retirement planning is, how are you going to fund your life when you're not receiving a paycheck? And how are you going to protect yourself with insurance? Because you never know what kind of medical problems can arise, or your house, if a tornado damages it, or you in different is maybe I should have retired sooner. But, do I miss work? Not one bit. I don't miss project deadlines, cost estimates, quotes, over-optimistic salesmen, giving bad news to customers, cost tracking, software like SAP, KPIs, key performance indicators, trying to persuade other departments to prioritize my projects, begging our factory to get my stuff shipped. The only actual work I kind of miss is designing stuff and doing AutoCAD. But I miss my coworkers quite a bit. I miss discussing technology with them. I miss hearing about their kids and families. I miss meeting coworkers from all over the world. I worked for a foreign company actually my whole life, so a great number of my coworkers were foreigners. And now there's, I've been retired 8 years, and there's few coworkers left there that still know me. A lot that I worked with retired before me, a few retired after I did, some left the company, very few, but a few did. And surprisingly, I've been to quite a few funerals since I retired. A lot of my coworkers have passed away. So I guess I would just sum everything up, start planning now. And the two basic things are when you're gonna retire and how are you going to finance it. Examining your expenses is a big part of that.
So you started thinking about retiring since in your 40s?
Yes, when I was 46. And that
So,
was,
so basically you spend like what, about 62 minus 40?
16 years.
So you spend like 16 years thinking about retirement?
yeah, actually, I thought about it my whole life.
Because I don't know about other people,
Actually
because,
planning.
yeah, because
planning
most,
it.
I think, I don't want to speak for others, but I think most people we spend like 8 hours, at least 8 hours at work for like 20, 25 years. And we haven't spent much time to think about our retirement, which is very important because after we get retired, we have another 20, 30 years hopefully, to live, so. I agree with you, we should spend more time thinking about time, because whatever the some people love their jobs, they love to do whatever they do, but basically the company, I don't think they are looking out for us, we have to look out for for ourselves.
Well,
Spend more time thinking about time.
Everyone's situation is unique. I was very blessed that I worked for a very good company. I tell people that the company I worked for was God's instrument to give me everything that I have. And, it wasn't a perfect place, it's run by human beings and there are all kinds of people and some good ones and some less good ones. But overall, I feel very blessed that I ended up there, and it was, I used to think, many years ago, until after I met my wife, but before that, I thought it was just a kind of an accident that I ended up there. It wasn't, going into engineering wasn't my original intention. I kind of fell into that, but idea at all, or why did that happen? That was terrible. But then when I, 20/20 hindsight, then I think, oh, that was what God had in mind, and that was, turned out for the good, actually, to my benefit or benefit of people around me or something like that. So, it's, I hope you guys start thinking about it and planning, looking at your resources and your expenses, because I think it's gonna be tougher for all of you guys than it was for me. I feel very blessed that I was born at the time I was born and where I was born, grew up where I did, because it seems to be getting more and more difficult for younger people.
How much time do you give your manager before? How should I say it? When should I tell my manager, like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, when is a good time?
I told my boss, well, actually, the first one I told, I was on pretty good terms with the president of our office here in Minneapolis, and I didn't really even know, we had gone through some changes in engineering management, so I didn't even know who
So your boss was?
well, I knew who my supervisor was, I didn't know who his boss was. Yeah. And so I told Renee Steiner, the president of our company, I went up and saw him, and that was about 5 months
5 months?
before I
Okay.
retired.
And you think that's a good advice? 5 months? I know it's all different.
It depends on your feeling towards the company. I wish I had decided earlier and told them earlier, but.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Because I appreciate them and appreciated working there. I've only had one job my whole life. I worked there 42 years.
Wow.
So I was very grateful to work there. And,
Nowadays, it's very difficult for somebody to work for this one same company for many years.
But actually, at the company I work for, because it's a foreign company, it's actually a Swiss-owned company. They have kind of a different system than we do. I have quite a few coworkers who worked there 50 years. At the same company. They start as apprentices when they're 15 years old. So when they're 65, they've been there 50 years. So I was kind of.
Did you prefer the 401k?
I have a Roth now, but when we first started 401ks, Roths didn't exist. I would have both.
Can I ask you this personal question?
Sure.
Proportion wise, do you have like half and half? Half of your assets is in 401k and the other half is in Roth. How do you manage ratio?
I actually didn't get the Roth until after I retired, and then our financial advisor recommended moving money from the regular 401k to the Roth to lower the tax hit on the required minimum distribution. So, even though I'm retired, I have fairly low income on paper and what I spend. I have high income, and it's a big chunk of money that I use to run. So I have to pay. But
Did you have
Yes, yes.
Part of it.
Yes, because, see, I started that 8 years ago. Minimum distribution. But they've been increasing it, so now I think it's around 73, 72. Okay, I don't remember. But, the required, it's all about lowering your tax. By when you hit 73 or 72, you'll have the required minimum distribution, and then they might make you $100,000 or even more. With that required minimum distribution, so you have to pay taxes. I really pay taxes. I don't get
Right now,
Oh, that's what I
Oh, okay.